Lord of the Flies by William Golding. Imagine waking up after a fiery plane crash to find yourself stranded on a pristine tropical island, utterly devoid of adults. This is the reality for a group of British schoolboys in a tale that quickly descends from a sun-drenched adventure into a nightmare of primal savagery. Our story begins in the sweltering heat of the jungle, where two boys cross paths. The first is Ralph, a fair-haired 12-year-old, built like a boxer, but with a mildness about his mouth and eyes that proclaims no devil. He is soon joined by a boy he will come to know as Piggy, shorter, very fat, asthmatic, and peering intelligently but anxiously through thick spectacles. Together, they discover a beautiful cream and pink conch shell in the lagoon. Guided by Piggy's intellect, Ralph learns to blow into the shell, sending a deep, booming note echoing across the island. The sound draws survivors from the jungle. Little boys, known as the Litluns, emerge first, followed by older boys. Among them are Sam and Eric, chunky and vital twins, bullet-headed with hair like tow, breathing and grinning together in cheery duplication. Finally, a marching choir appears, draped in black cloaks despite the tropical heat. They are led by Jack Meridew, a tall, thin, bony boy with red hair beneath a black cap and a crumpled, freckled face holding light blue eyes full of aggressive authority. Beside him is Roger, a slight, furtive boy with an inner intensity of secrecy and a shock of black hair that makes his gloomy face forbidding, and Simon, a skinny, vivid little boy with coarse black hair flopping over a low forehead and a deep, sweaty tan. The boys immediately realize they need a chief. Though Jack arrogantly nominates himself, the boys are drawn to Ralph's stillness, his size, and the mystical authority of the conch he holds. Ralph is elected chief. To appease a humiliated Jack, Ralph grants him control of the choir, who become the designated hunters. The island seems like a paradise, a blank canvas for fun. Ralph, Jack, and Simon scale the mountain, confirming they are on an uninhabited island. At the summit, they revel in their freedom, declaring the island belongs to them. On the way down, they encounter a piglet trapped in creeping vines. Jack raises his knife, but hesitates, unable to bear the enormity of cutting into living flesh. The pig escapes. Jack slams his knife into a tree trunk, vowing that next time there will be no mercy. Back on the beach, Ralph establishes a crucial rule. During assemblies, only the person holding the conch may speak. He also declares that they must build a signal fire on the mountain to attract passing ships. The boys enthusiastically rush to the summit, piling up a massive heap of dead wood. To light it, they snatch Piggy's thick glasses, using the lenses to focus the sun's rays. A fire roars to life, but without proper planning, it rapidly spirals out of control, setting a quarter-mile of the forest ablaze. In the chaotic aftermath, Piggy tearfully points out that one of the Litluns, a boy with a mulberry-colored birthmark, is missing, swallowed by the inferno. The first shadow of tragedy falls over the island. As weeks pass, the glamorous illusion of the island fades into a wearying reality. Ralph and Simon labor endlessly to build shaky wooden shelters on the beach, while the rest of the boys play, swim, or in Jack's case, hunt. Jack has become consumed by the compulsion to track and kill. He prowls the jungle almost naked, his eyes bolting and mad. The tension between Ralph, who prioritizes rescue and civilization, and Jack, who prioritizes meat and the thrill of the hunt, reaches a boiling point. Adding to the unease is a growing terror among the Litluns. They whisper of a beastie or a snake thing lurking in the dark. Ralph insists it's just nightmares. Jack promises his hunters will kill it if it exists, but the fear takes root, poisoning the boys' minds. One afternoon, the worst happens. Ralph spots a ship on the horizon, its smoke a tight little knot of hope. He looks frantically up at the mountain, but the signal fire is dead. Ralph, Piggy, and Simon sprint up the treacherous slopes, arriving too late. The horizon is empty. Just then, Jack and his hunters arrive in a triumphant procession, chanting, "Kill the pig, cut her throat, spill her blood." They are carrying the gutted carcass of their first kill, their faces smeared in primitive clay paint. Jack is ecstatic, his mind crowded with the fierce exhilaration of taking a life, but Ralph is shattered. He confronts Jack for abandoning the fire. In the ensuing bitter argument, Jack, driven to violence by humiliation, punches Piggy in the stomach and smacks his head, sending Piggy's glasses flying and shattering one of the lenses. A line has been crossed. Though Jack apologizes for the fire, the rift between the boys deepens into an unbridgeable chasm. Desperate to restore order, Ralph calls a late evening assembly. The shadows are long and the mood is grim. He tries to enforce the rules about the fire, the shelters, and hygiene before pivoting to the most pressing issue, the fear. He demands they discuss the beast rationally and discard it. However, the meeting descends into chaos. A little unnamed Percival breaks down in uncontrollable sobs, suggesting the beast comes from the sea. Simon, attempting to express a profound but difficult truth, tentatively suggests that the beast might not be a creature with claws, but rather something within themselves. "Maybe it's only us," he whispers. His insight is mocked and discarded. Jack finally seizes control, shouting down the rules and declaring that if there is a beast, he and his hunters will track it and beat it to death. He leads a wild, chaotic stampede down the beach, leaving Ralph, Piggy, and Simon alone in the dark. Ralph contemplates stepping down as chief, but Piggy pleads with him to stay, terrified of what Jack would do to him without Ralph's protection. That night, while the boys sleep, a fierce aerial battle rages high above the island. A casualty of the adult world's own savagery, a dead fighter pilot, ejects and drifts down on a parachute, landing on the mountaintop. The wind catches the parachute, making the corpse bow and sit up in a grotesque marionette dance. The twins, Sam and Eric, who are tending the fire, see this horrific silhouette in the dark and flee in terror, reporting to the camp that the beast chased them. Armed with wooden spears, the older boys set out to hunt the creature. They explore a narrow neck of land leading to a rocky outcrop called Castle Rock, which Jack immediately envisions as a magnificent fort. Finding nothing there, they press on toward the mountain. As night falls, Ralph, Jack, and Roger climb the final slope. In the gloom, they see the humped, bulging shape of the dead parachutist. When the wind suddenly fills the chute, the corpse lifts its head, revealing the horrifying ruin of its face. Paralyzed by fear, the three boys drop their weapons and flee blindly down the mountain. Back at the camp, Jack calls an assembly and attempts a coup, demanding Ralph be removed as chief. When the boys remain silently hesitant, Jack's face flushes with humiliating tears. He declares he is no longer going to play with them and disappears into the jungle, inviting anyone who wants to hunt to join him. Slowly, most of the older boys slip away to join Jack's new tribe. Relieved of the beast on the mountain, Piggy suggests they build a new signal fire right on the beach, restoring a brief sense of purpose to Ralph's dwindling group. Deep in the forest, Jack declares himself chief of his new savage tribe. They track down a massive nursing sow. The hunt is brutal, chaotic, and driven by a dark lust. Roger drives his spear into the pig with sadistic glee, and Jack cuts its throat, the hot blood spilling over his hands. To appease the beast, Jack severs the pig's head, sharpens a stick at both ends, and mounts the dripping, grinning head in a sunlit clearing. Unbeknownst to them, Simon has been hiding in that very clearing. Struck down by the heat and the beginnings of a mystical seizure, Simon is left alone with the severed head. The flies swarm the bloody offering, and to Simon's wavering consciousness, the head comes alive. It introduces itself as the Lord of the Flies. It speaks to him with the cynical voice of an adult, confirming his deepest realization. Fancy thinking the beast was something you could hunt and kill. It mocks. You knew, didn't you? I'm part of you? Close, close, close. I'm the reason why it's no go, why things are what they are. The head threatens Simon, telling him that he is not wanted and that they are going to do him in. Simon falls into the blackness of a swoon. When Simon awakens, he crawls through the forest and discovers the rotting parachutist on the mountain. Realizing the beast is harmless and horrible, just a dead human, he untangles the parachute lines to free the corpse from the wind's indignity and staggers down the mountain to tell the others the truth. Meanwhile, a massive thunderstorm brews. Jack's tribe is throwing a feast on the beach, roasting the pig. Even Ralph and Piggy, driven by gnawing hunger and the threat of the storm, wander over to the gathering. Jack sits painted and garlanded on a log like an idol. As the lightning flashes and the thunder crashes, panic grips the boys. Jack orders them to do their hunting dance. The boys form a frenzied chanting circle. Kill the beast, cut his throat, spill his blood. Swept up in the hypnotic, terrifying rhythm, even Ralph and Piggy find themselves joining the outer edge of the mob. Suddenly, a figure crawls out of the dark forest into the horseshoe of the dancers. It is Simon, crying out desperately about a dead man on a hill. But the boys, blinded by the storm and their own bloodlust, see only the beast. The mob descends upon him. They strike, bite, and tear with their bare hands and teeth. Simon's cries are drowned out by the abominable noise. The rain pours down in a torrential waterfall, washing away the frenzied mob, leaving Simon's broken, bleeding body on the sand. High above, the wind finally lifts the dead parachutist, carrying the corpse out to sea. Later that night, the tide gently reclaims Simon's body, dressing his coarse hair with a halo of silver, glowing creatures as he drifts out into the vast ocean. The next morning, the crushing weight of reality sets in. Ralph is traumatized, fully aware that they have committed murder. Piggy, in deep denial, insists it was just an accident in the dark. Now, Ralph's group is reduced to just himself, Piggy, and Sam Narek. Across the island at Castle Rock, Jack rules as an absolute dictator. He has a boy beaten for no reason, establishing a reign of terror. Roger, realizing the limitless possibilities of irresponsible authority, revels in this new world. That night, Jack, Roger, and another savage raid Ralph's camp. They viciously beat Ralph and his friends in the dark, and Jack escapes with his ultimate prize, Piggy's broken glasses, the only means to make fire. Deprived of his sight and his dignity, Piggy insists they go to Castle Rock. He wants to confront Jack holding the conch, appealing to reason and demanding his glasses back because what's right's right. Ralph agrees, and the four boys march to the rocky fortress. They are met by painted savages. Jack emerges from the forest with a dead pig, and he and Ralph immediately clash. They fight with the butts of their spears, a desperate struggle between civilization and savagery. Jack's tribe captures and ties up Sam Narek. Amidst the chaos, Piggy raises the white conch, shouting for them to listen. He asks them which is better, to have rules and agree, or to hunt and kill. High above on the cliff, Roger leans his entire weight on a lever beneath a massive red boulder. The rock plummets down the cliffside. It strikes Piggy a glancing blow from chin to knee. The conch, the symbol of order and democracy, explodes into 1,000 white fragments and ceases to exist. Piggy is hurled 40 feet through the air, landing on a square red rock in the sea. His head splits open, and the sea instantly washes his body away. Jack wildly screams that the conch is gone and hurls his spear at Ralph, tearing the flesh over his ribs. The entire tribe surges forward. Ralph turns and runs for his life, crashing into the dense jungle. Ralph is now a hunted outcast. The following day, Jack's tribe sweeps across the island in a coordinated line, ululating like animals. They roll massive boulders into the thickets to crush Ralph. When that fails, they deliberately set the entire island on fire to smoke him out. The blaze rapidly consumes the forest, destroying the fruit trees and their entire habitat. Ralph runs desperately, a frantic animal fleeing the flames and the spears, gasping for breath as the jagged fringe of menace closes in. Bursting through the burning undergrowth, Ralph stumbles onto the white sand of the beach, falling and crouching to ward off the fatal blows. But the blows do not come. He looks up to see a peaked cap, white drill, and gold epaulettes. A British naval officer stands on the sand, a cutter waiting behind him. The smoke from the island-wide inferno had finally acted as the signal fire they so desperately needed. The painted savages stumble onto the beach behind Ralph, stopping dead in their tracks at the sight of the adult. The officer looks at the filthy, blood-streaked boys and lightly asks if they've been having a war. He expresses disappointment that a group of British boys couldn't put up a better show. Ralph tries to explain that it was good at first before things fell apart. Overwhelmed by the loss of Simon, the death of his true, wise friend Piggy, and the sheer darkness he has discovered in the human heart, Ralph begins to weep. Great, shuddering spasms of grief wrench his body. Infected by the emotion, the other little boys begin to sob as well. The officer, embarrassed and moved, turns away to look at the trim cruiser anchored in the distance, allowing the boys a moment to weep for the end of innocence on a paradise lost in flames.